Hello. All right, so I am here to talk about why open source is critical for building out civic infrastructure. So a little bit about me. My name is Sam Shireman. As Brandon said, I'm a product manager within Harvard's Applied Social Media Lab. I've got a background in cognitive science, technology, bridging and democracy, and whiskey, if anyone wants to nerd out later. And importantly, I think that humans are actually pretty great problem solvers if given the right tools. So I'm specifically the product manager for a platform called Frankly. So Frankly is an open source platform for synchronous video-based structured discourse. So it's within the ASML, and we're working very closely with Lawrence Lessig. For those who aren't familiar, he's a law professor and political activist and founded Creative Commons, among a bunch of other things. So Frankly is essentially for the types of conversations where you would really like to have, ideally, people gather together in person where you can have a trained facilitator for each one of their small group discussions. But of course, that is extremely expensive and impractical. And so what you'll see, and I'm sure you have all been subjected to this, is people will move these types of conversations to something like Zoom or Google Meet. They will send people randomly into breakout rooms. They'll put a prompt in the chat or maybe a PDF agenda and kind of cross their fingers and hope that people actually stay on task and go through the process that they need to go through. And we've all seen just about how well that tends to work out. So we're trying to span that gap. So this can take many forms, and we want it to be a flexible platform for various dialogue and deliberative processes. So that can mean town halls or focus groups or deliberation, where people are actually trying to arrive at a consensus or solve a problem together, like in a policy deliberation or a citizens' assembly. So a couple of the ways that we do this, we've got embedded discussion prompts to help keep people on task and reduce reliance on facilitators. So you've got your, basically people will join the event and then they'll be sent into their breakout rooms, and then their discussion guide that the facilitator or event organizer has built out is right front and center, walking them through the process. We've got algorithmic group matching. So instead of sending people randomly to breakout rooms, you can actually help ensure that diverse perspectives are represented in each one of those breakout rooms. So depending on the registration questions that you specify for your event, Frankly will maximize diversity, maximize differences within those breakout rooms. We've got participation nudges. So if someone is not really speaking up or totally taking over the conversation, they'll hit a certain threshold and privately be prompted to either leave room for others or share their perspectives. And then we've got deliberative polling tools so people can propose and vote on ideas in real time. And importantly, of course, we are open source, so it's an AGPL license to ensure that the platform is transparent and adaptable and accountable to public interests. So we're developing this specifically to be civic infrastructure. This is something that is very important to Larry and I. Essentially, we want to help make this normal, to make deliberation accessible and help people build the muscle of civic engagement and collaborative decision making. So let's talk about what I mean by civic infrastructure. I'm sure everyone in this room has their own idea of what is necessary for civic participation. So this is my framework for it. I think what is necessary for a participant in a democracy is, number one, they need to have a basic understanding of the political system and of current issues. That can take the form of civic education, media literacy, getting a balanced news diet, things like that. Two, they need to engage with a wide range of perspectives. So this is partially because intellectual insularity makes us really easy to manipulate, which we've all very much been seeing because it breeds extremism and fractures our trust networks and leads to dehumanization and violence. but also just because it leads to bad solutions. If people aren't picking apart your argument or trying to poke holes in your policy recommendation, you're going to end up with weaker solutions and weaker policy. And number 3, it is absolutely essential that civic participants feel like their voice matters. If they don't feel like their voice matters, why are they going to bother to vote? Why are they going to take time out of their day to attend a town hall meeting or call their representative or join an assembly or a deliberation? So that's what's necessary for civic participation broadly. What this looks like in a deliberative context, so what we're concerned about with Frankly, is helping people get that basic understanding. So that takes the form of clear and balanced background materials put together by the organizer, helping people interact with a range of perspectives. So this can take the form of representative recruitment and, of course, those balanced breakout rooms. And helping people feel that they have a voice. So setting up an environment where people actually feel safe and respected and able to speak their mind, nudges to encourage that balanced participation. And importantly, of course, buy-in from representatives, which is a whole talk of its own. But one thing that really, really helps get buy-in from representatives is transparency of the process to help legitimize the outcomes. So that's what's necessary for civic engagement. What makes something actually good infrastructure? It has to be reliable, right? So it has to work as intended, and you have to trust that it's going to keep being there. It has to adapt to changing conditions. It has to be scalable, so it has to be able to grow to meet demand, it has to use resources efficiently, and it has to be flexible so that it can expand into those new use cases without needing a total overhaul. And it needs to be accessible. So both in the financial sense, right? If something is infrastructural, it has to be cost effective, but also in the inclusivity aspect. So something needs to be intuitive to use. Your bridge infrastructure is not going to be very effective if people need to read an instruction manual to use it safely. So how do we make deliberation reliable, scalable, and accessible so that it can be effective infrastructure? By making it open source. So this is where I preach to the choir. But this is a huge part of the reason why we decided to make Frankly open source, which was never a question. I wouldn't have taken the role. But it needs to be open source, and this helps us to make sure that we are reliable. AGPL3 specifically ensures longevity beyond any institution, make sure that it cannot be reproprietized. And the transparency, as I talked about, legitimizes the process and helps us build trust both with participants and with representatives and stakeholders. And it broadcasts very openly that we are accountable to public interests rather than shifting private ones. It helps make sure that we are scalable because community involvement can actually help us to build flexibly and evolve to meet evolving needs. And it helps ensure that we are accessible, both because it ensures that we remain cost effective and because, again, that community involvement helps ensure that we are actually building with broad needs in mind. So if we end up not being inclusive or accessible, somebody tells us about it and ideally helps us fix it, but at the very least calls attention to it. So basically, open source, I think, is the best way to make sure that we are building tools that people can trust and the democratic institutions can rely on. So if anyone is interested in learning more about Frankly, happy to chat about it later. And I've got links here to our public roadmap and some info for anyone who's interested in helping. We are in closed beta. So if folks are interested in kicking the tires, you can also reach out to us. All right. Thank you so much.